is happening? Give me a moment. And I'm working on going live with Jane so that we can have a conversation about, um, CRT because I think it's such a hot topic. And, well, not just a hot topic, it's like needs, um, needs us to have more understanding because I think a lot of people don't understand, what it is. Well, hello.
Hello, did you get in there?
Oh my God, there you are, and here we are on live, sister.
What a
Woo!
mess.
It's been a day, hasn't it? I can't do it. I can't. I can't.
Ah, we're in. I love it.
It took everything I had and didn't know I needed and all kinds of
I just when you think you're a smart one, right?
stuff. Yeah, just what I do. There, here, so I don't lose you. And how are you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am well. I am well. Now, this we're both going together live so that we can have a discussion. And I don't want to take over.
No.
This is really for your viewers on YouTube, right?
Right, right.
And I want to make sure that I'm answering questions. So I'm gonna shut up. You
Yeah,
open us up.
right. So we've been having quite the conversation in the comment sections of my videos about CRT and several other issues, but CRT is something that you and I started conversating about. And why I think it's important for you and I to get on here is that we're very different people. You have a very different belief in education and CRT. We walk different paths. I mean, like I said in my other video, I think the only thing that we really have in common that I can tell from our 3.5 hour conversation is how we raise our children. And I can't remember the other one, but that was something that I really connect
About white women.
Right. Oh, that's right. How we feel about white women, especially in the workplace. But I really connected with you on how you explained your children and some of the things on that. So I think that the CRT is a good conversation for us to start with because we both feel very passionate about our children. And of course, I'm a grandmother now, and my grandkids are going into school or in school. And that's where CRT really hits home for me.
Yeah.
And you come from a historical and factual based, this is what CRT is. I come from a place of CRT is not my problem. The problem I have is who's teaching it, what they're teaching, and the age groups for which they are teaching. Now, on my channel, I get a lot in the comment section. CRT is not a thing. It's not in the schools. White people just don't want history taught. And that's not a thing. And I know it's happening here in Colorado, and I think I think it's not being told that it's CRT. There's just a lot of exercises that are going on. So I think we should open up with you giving a little bit of understanding as to what CRT is in the educational system,
Right.
what you believe is being taught, and where you think it's taught, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. So I'm gonna pick up on what is CRT. And what I've done is share a few things because you know me a lot, and I find comfort in not hey people. I like to really understand the thing, and I end up going down rabbit holes. So Jane is going to pull me, back, because I will go there with every book I know. So what I'm going to do first is just give you guys a quick little what I know, but then I'm going to read something from the back of Critical Race Theory, the collection CRT as we know it. Okay, so CRT was created about 40 some years ago by what several academics and lawyers did was they decided to put together a compilation of different writers, different perspectives, different backgrounds that were Black intellectuals and scholars and lawyers, whatever. And what they found out is they were kind of writing about the same subject, which is how race in America informs laws that America creates, and how then America enforces those laws. So therefore CRT, which is what we know now because it's such a hot, word all of a sudden, critical race theory is again a compilation of scholars, brilliant writers from different decades through the 20th century. Okay, and it has been put together so that we all could have a place to start looking at. If you say I can't drink from a water fountain because I am a Black person,
right,
and make it a law, that means you can enforce it by police or whatever, jail time it is, because they're
right.
So that's really what critical race theory as a whole was trying to get to. So let me just read a little something from back of. Okay, I'm gonna be showing books because I don't need to read.
People need to read.
I'm just saying.
Right.
So see, the actual critical race theory that everybody's lumping everything under is not taught in kindergarten through 12th. So here we go. Critical race theory is a compilation of provocative writings that challenges us to consider the relationship between race, the legal system, and society at large. This volume, that red book you just saw, that's the compilation of all of these different writers I'm talking about, make an important contribution to America's much needed dialogue on race. That was from Senator Bill Bradley. Okay, so the next one says that this is an exciting, definitive work of an intellectual and political project whose critical interventions have placed race at the center of the American legal culture.
Okay.
So that's what critical race theory was for us as lawyers, ethics, things like that. In college, right? Especially if you want to be a lawyer or something that involves ethics. These are college courses. This was a college that you take, right? So I just want to see if that makes sense.
It absolutely does. And so I think that where we both can agree, and forgive me if I'm wrong, is that critical race theory as a whole is extremely complex and has a lot of moving parts, and it's critical who's teaching it. It's critical the age of the person that's learning it, and the environment for which they're learning it, right?
So
it's not made for children.
It was never made for children. It's
right. Because this would be vital to anybody in college for I mean, I personally don't think it should be just for legal and stuff like that. They should be teaching critical race theory, which I don't know the details of it because I'm stuck on the controversy. But if this is what I think it is, and just the description that you said, everybody in, multiple facets should be learning this, right? Because the only way we can change as a society is if everybody's involved.
I think what has happened is you have a group of so-called leaders who have grouped everything under critical race theory, because you could call it CRT, not used in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Well, but because you could call it CRT, and that made it easy for you to put all type of shit in there. So
what I think has happened is they've taken the concept of CRT. Some jackass, when I find him, we're going to deal with him. They've taken the concept of CRT, and I think they've kind of manipulated it, dumbed it down, and thought this is the climate politically for which we can now roll this out. And I think the intent was not to teach our children CRT. I think the intent is exactly what we got: division, anger, and an attack. Because now we've got such a jumbled misconception of what white people have a problem with, what black people are saying, all the way in between the gray areas, where now it's like, well, CRT is not a thing, they're not teaching it. And it's like, and if you watch a lot of these live streamed school board meetings where all these parents are standing up and talking, a lot of this stuff has now jumbled into, this isn't really about CRT anymore, because parents have now caught on to what their kids are reading in school, what their kids are learning in school, and they're like, whoa, there's a lot of explicit content going on here, there's a lot of weird exercises that this teacher who is flying a gay flag in their room, it's turned into an LGBT thing, it's turned into a lot of things. And it's all lumped in under the guidelines of black and white, CRT, and now we got the LGBT thing coming in. And I think that was the purpose of it. That was literally, I personally believe, put your tinfoil hat on, that was the purpose of it. I think that what started out to be valuable and could have been rolled out and evolved for our children's consumption to start and prepare them going up in their education has now been turned into a weapon to once again divide black and white people and everybody in between. Because I'm not sure why the LGBTQ community is pushing CRT as hard as they are, when it really is mostly white, middle-aged women and gay millennials, male millennials, that I see on the internet really fighting for this CRT. And it's like, not that everybody can't fight for it and all of that, but it just feels to me that it's being used more as a weapon than it is anything. And if we think for 1 minute that our children are not getting some form of this in their schools right now in certain states, we would be blind.
Well,
And
let me.
that's white people's concern as a whole. I think that is the common thing, is that we don't see CRT as history. We're seeing this as the exercises that our children have came home and told us that they were a part of.
Okay, so um let me say this. There's just a couple things. So really, white people especially again use CRT, critical race theory, as a catch-all. Most people, whether you're white, whether you're not, whether you're a black person, whether you're not, do fucking know what they're talking about. You are not using CRT in your classrooms because it's like saying we're going to put that level of we're going to make kindergarten through 12th grade, they're going to become medical doctors by the time they're in seventh. So we are not into the classroom. I don't care if somebody like brings in somebody's or some shit and says
Well,
they're.
they may not be using the actual CRT curriculum that they do in college, but you do realize that they're having board meetings to discuss CRT being used in the classrooms, and that's why the parents are there. The parents aren't just coming to school board meetings saying, we're going to talk about X, Y, and Z, and the parents just show up and say, no, we want to talk about CRT.
But
There's
CRT is not. That is.
and you and I both know that that's not
So
CRT,
I do.
but that's the way it's being presented. And
I
like I said, it's white people doing it, and they're using this CRT. And the common folks, people like us, we're seeing it through the vision of, we've got the school board saying they want to use CRT, or saying we want to do a form of critical race theory, these exercises, and all you're seeing is the pushback from white people and parents, and it's being manipulated to say, well, white people just don't want history about black people in schools anymore. And it's like, no, 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 no. If we were talking about history, we'd be having a totally different conversation. That's why I'm saying it needs, first of all, we all need to get involved. Period.
Before we all get involved, before we all start, because this is the problem.
But we can't stop the conversation at, listen, white folks, this
No,
is not happening. This
no.
is not happening, because we all know it's happening. It's happening here.
Okay, so let me break in really quick because let's go. It what we're actually looking forward to. I'm not speaking for every damn black, but some of us, is that we are going to be able to tell the truth about history, but it won't
Right.
be a CRT curriculum. It won't be coming from CRT.
Right.
You have to be a fucking scholar
Yeah.
and this shit. There's
Mm-hmm.
anybody is fucking building a curriculum that is going to work for kindergarten lying. Okay,
Yeah.
that's they're lying. Now I've explained what it is, what it's not. What the problem is that we actually have that is something that into a curriculum, and that Pulitzer Prize, the Pulitzer Prize, whole
Right.
network, and the New York Times has taken, because these are different authors, well, but they're coming from economics, they're coming from educational backgrounds, they're coming from investigative reporters on race, they're coming from Native Americans, they're coming from black intellectuals, indigenous intellectuals, and things like that.
Yeah.
So I need us to understand that this is really what has been trying to be put in. This shit is not.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that that's the message to white people, that white people need to go into these school board meetings and say, listen, we're not even, CRT is not even on our list. What we want is a rollout of history taught from the very beginning of school. the real facts and based off of the child's level of comprehension
Right.
up to high school, so that they're prepared to go into college and learn, CRT or whatever. But at the end of the day, white folks need to, at this point, say, listen, I'm not even going to discuss CRT in elementary, middle school, or high school. What we want, right? What we want is we want history. We want history and we want the facts. We want all science. The children should not just be learning, because I mean, I'd love to say that my kids had a different experience, but they didn't. We literally learned about Black history during Black History Month, and that was pretty much it when I was in school. We didn't really learn a lot about Native Americans when I was in school. Occasionally, here around Thanksgiving, we'd hear about, when the Pilgrims settled and stuff, but we didn't hear about any of that. Now, I remember going into different cultures like Japanese and Germany and stuff like that, but that was more a broad brush. But we didn't learn from, back then it was for kindergarten, now it got preschool. I think kids should be learning history all year, every year, the whole way up. It is a long journey to get the facts. And I think what really needs to be focused on is our experience as Americans, past, present, and future, and our Constitution. Because look at it this way, our Constitution may have been written by a bunch of white men who had an agenda. Who the fuck knows? But the way it's written right now, it's for all of us, and it can be utilized for all of us because it's the way we are now. But we're not looking at it that way.
We're listening to you, and we're listening to you tell us that, the average white person, this is it. This is what we're trying to get. Okay, we're not, rally around some shit to divide us. We're get to actual facts. So let me do something really quick here, because I think this is so important, and I think you'll understand it once I tell you a couple of things. So I'm going to read you something from the Heritage Foundation. Okay, Heritage Foundation is a Republican think tank, but I don't give a fuck whether you're Republican, Democrat, who the fuck you call yourself.
Yeah.
That's not what's relevant. What's relevant is that in the 1400s, white people decided that they were going to invent whiteness.
Okay.
And in order for you to have fucking whiteness, you have to have an opposing, which is blackness. And what it means for me as a black person, as opposed to you or any other white person, including my white husband,
right,
that I was supposed to be enslaved in perpetuity based on the melanin in my skin.
right,
Period. What comes along with that is I'm ignorant, I am low, I am dirty, I am lazy, I am not a good parent, I'm just baby mama now, that's what they call us.
yeah,
But see, the problem for me, the problem for other black people, the problem for poor white people and working class white people is, while these motherfuckers are playing with our lives,
yeah,
like you said, with the division and shit like that, they are not creating policies to uplift their constituents who as so-called Republicans or Democrats or whoever the fuck, the middle or whatever it is,
yeah.
you're supposed to be helping people. But
Right.
instead of that, you coming out and you saying all kinds of shit. So let me just read this from the Heritage Foundation.
Okay.
This is what they said about CRT. They said, quote, critical theory, they took out the race part because there's two things, okay?
Okay.
One didn't have much.
Okay.
This So I want us to know that. But anyway, they're lumping it all together. Doesn't matter. Okay, so critical theory amounts to an unremitting attack on all American norms and traditions. The goal is to replace them with a counter narrative that will introduce a more leftist model of governing. This is a rather extreme view of what is happening, but truth to it. Since children are young and easy to mold, and I want us to remember that part. Since
Right.
children are young and easy to mold, teaching such a sensitive subject without alternate perspectives can cement their views early on. Not only would it bias their understanding of America and its history, but also race and racism. Hold on.
Right.
So let me read this. This came from the early 19th, and this had white women who decided what was going to be in history. And you and I are of an age. We know what we were taught in school about history
Yeah.
and not. So white women, especially since 1920, also used public education to ensure that generations of children would be white supremacist politics. Just as black women understood that schools could be used to place lessons for their kids, but they weren't allowed to decide what went in the schools. And today, 8 out of 10 teachers is a white woman, but only less than 50% of the public school system kids are white.
Yep.
So, okay, let me go on. Um, as Catherine Sharon's work on Satima Clark, a black woman who actually created civil rights. It is a misnomer that Martin Luther King created civil rights. Got a similar problem in the black community that you have in the white community.
Yeah.
Race women. Okay, but I'll let that go for now. We can talk about that. Anyway, this goes on to say the school as an institution proved essential to the maintenance of white supremacy. And white women provided lessons, benefits of racial segregation, and the work needed to keep it going. When white women sponsored textbooks or movies, funded summer schools, or conducted essays, they held segregation, broad public education that outlasted both legal segregation and vociferous proponents. This others of resistance. This was written by a and her investigation of who decided was going to be in education all of these decades,
Right.
and down to this point. So
Right.
what really pisses me off, this is a sideline that pisses me off. So now when we want to put something in fucking school, on the school, and being indoctrinated into what they have been, what my mother was, what my daughter was. We don't want them to be indoctrinated into they're fucking inferior.
Yep.
And white people are inferior. A young white girl can cry and everybody's gonna gather. A young black girl can cry and get put in handcuffs.
Yep.
So just the caucasity of it all. But because I don't get you're talking about CRT 1619 or what the fuck ever. Why do white people have more of a right to decide what's going to be in fucking school?
Right. Well, here's it.
As an intellectual.
Right.
So that pisses me though.
Right. And I got you. And I understand that is the issue. However, from my perspective, I get why you'd be mad. That angers me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really affect my kids, I should be like, fuck it, it's not my problem. But that angers me because, like I explained to you before, I teach my kids something very fucking different in my house. And I don't want my children going to school and assuming that because they're white, they don't have to fucking try. And so, from my point of view, it pisses me off that my kids would go be dumbed down thinking that they're better than or can just fucking skate on through,
Right.
or be taught that they're better than anybody based off of anything other than what they accomplish. So and it pisses me off that this has been going on forever. And no one's stepping up in a way that can bring us all together and speak the same language. And the thing that my husband and I talk about all the time is that white people are getting caught on the history of it. And black people are getting caught on the history of it. We all want history taught, but I don't want to be, as a white person, blamed for shit that happened back then. I want to acknowledge it. I want to do better. I want to support. I want a better way of life for me and mine and you and yours. But I don't want to be villainized because of something I'm not even going to answer for the bad shit my dad did, let alone some asshole way back in the day did. And so it invokes such passion for good reason
Right.
on your side, for good fucking reason, because it's not only that it happened for you guys, the fact that you had to fight to get people to even fucking acknowledge that it happened is why it's so annoying. And it's so passionate now because it's like, now that we've gotten to this point, because we're better now than we've ever been, and we still have a long way to fucking go. And we've gotten to this point, and you guys are still having to fight for every little thing to just be acknowledged. Let's just get it acknowledged, talk about it, and just accept it and let's move on. And white people are like, I'm not going to accept that. I'm not accepting blame for that. I don't want that. You know what I'm saying? Now, you and I talked about something on our last call, and I want to use it as an example because I understand that we need history. This needs to be a whole revamp of our school system, and it's going to start with the parents, or it's just not going to fucking start. And we need to acknowledge that right now, and we have to do it together, because just black people can't do it, just Mexican people can't do it, and just white people can't do it either. And that's why we're at a deadlock right now, because we're not working together as parents, period. You and I were talking